Get ready for the kickoff of Coach Red and Company. An inside look at high school athletics like you've never heard before. Hosted by veteran coaches Red Johnston and Shane Huygens. This podcast dives deep into the world of high school sports, exploring much more than scores and stats. Whether you're a coach, a parent, student athlete, or fan, Coach Red and Company is your go-to podcast for the developments beyond the X's and O's of high school sports. Red and Shane are tackling the big topics like NIL, recruiting, team dynamics, and even the dollars and cents behind the game, such as budgets, facilities, and coaching salaries. Let's talk high school sports. Real, raw, and unfiltered. This is Coach Red and Company. Touchdown!
Welcome back, everybody, to Coach Red and Company. This week's episode is Coaching More Than X's and O's. We have a great interview for you guys with what I believe is probably the best personal development trainer in the country, a guy by the name of Ganon Baker. If you don't know who he is, YouTube him. He's been around for about 25, 30 years. He's worked with some of the best athletes and basketball players in the world. Some guy named LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, KG, Chris Paul, Manu Ginobili, Ray Allen. He's worked with the best. He's worked with a lot of the best on the women's side. And he talks about that in this video or in the interview with us. So, sit back, take it all in. I know players, coaches, you're going to get a lot out of this interview with Ganon, and hopefully Shane and I can provide a little bit more of a context and some more information that you'll get a lot out of as well. So, if you like what you're seeing, guys, please on our YouTube channel, subscribe, share, leave a comment, any topics that you'd like to hear us talk about or you'd like to discuss, please feel free to leave those in the comments section. So with that being said, Coach Shane, how you doing today, buddy?
Hey, doing extremely well. Beautiful afternoon out here in sunny Orlando, Florida. We got through those little chilly, 52-degree days. We call those chilly.
Those
but
Parker weather.
My son was up in Iowa. Yeah. It's crazy because my son was up in Iowa, and on Wednesday, I think it was -7. And I just looked at the weather today, and it's 59 there. Like 65-degree change around in 4 days. I don't know. That's how when your mom and dad said you get sick because the weather changed, that's probably what happens there.
Our weather is definitely bipolar.
Yeah. But, hey, great day outside. We got a lot of information coming up. Ganon Baker, like you said, one of the top guys in all of player development, coach development, runs his Ganon Baker School, started as Shake and Bake Basketball. That was an interesting one. The guys, what's his name? Will Ferrell and his boy probably owe him money. They probably took that Shake and Bake Basketball and then applied it to Talladega.
Right. We may have to look into that.
So,
get him some trademark money.
Yeah, get him some money. You owe me, baby. But parents, players, coaches, a lot of information ahead. At the end, like Coach Red said, we'll come back. We'll kind of hit a little bulletin points on stuff that we think you should have definitely picked up. But definitely tune in. Get your notepad out. A lot of information coming at you right here, and coming at you quick.
And when we first started the conversation, Ganon and I always called it skill development, right? So when I was coaching, when I first started coaching 96 to 2000, I didn't know what skill development was, right? I mean, you got in the gym, you played, you went through practice. That's how you got better. You played and played and played. Then I go to Florida State for a year. We start doing individual instruction where you could only have one or two guys in the gym at a time. And you worked on skills, getting them better. Big guys working on post moves, guards were working on their ball handling and shooting. So that's what we called it. But, Ganon talks about how it's not just skill development. Skill development is part of the personal development, but you also have the mental side, the emotional side. And if you want to add a deeper component, you also have the spiritual side. So I thought that was awesome. And he talked about how this industry is a no barrier industry, right? Anybody can do it. And you and I, Coach, been around this game, as long as we have. We know a lot of guys that are skilled development guys, right?
Skill guys
that, may have played in college or was the best player at the park, so now he figures he can train kids to be, NBA players, but there's a lot more that goes into this than just teaching a kid how to dribble and shoot. So look forward to that interview here in a couple of minutes. Coach, with your 4A Academy, you did a lot of skill development. You had kids that came in during the day and did skill development. Talk a little bit about kind of what you guys did and kind of your understanding of what skill development was.
Yeah, well, at 4A, what we did is we brought our guys in the morning. They did about an hour and a half of skill development on court skills, just working on all those different aspects of their game that maybe they didn't have time in high school, because obviously with high school practices, you're kind of limited. And unless you have the extra money to go out and hire someone to be a skills guy, you might not have got that work. So they did a lot of skills development on the court. And then, they combined that with the sports performance, hour and a half in the weight room, working on all that stuff as well. And me and you talked kind of off camera a little bit. And you said, hey, were they going through the mental, emotional, spiritual? And I said, hey, Red, don't quote me. I don't think they wrote it down, but I think it's like when me and you coached, right? We brought up mental stuff. We brought up emotional. We brought up maybe spiritual stuff. But did we put it in our lesson plan? Like on our basketball plan for the day, did we write from 3 o'clock to 3:10, we're going to talk mental? No, we just it kind of just flowed into it sometimes. So I think what Ganon's talking about there is being more, what's the word? Like
more focused on it.
Really diving. Yeah, more focused. Yeah. And diving into that part, right? Like not just, if it comes up, it comes up. But me and, being said, hey, I gotta plan time into it during that skill development time where I can take time out and talk about the emotional part of the game. He mentions like, how do you handle certain situations? Yep. And I talk to kids all the time. Hey, it's easy to win. It's tough to lose, man. Like, how do you handle losing? How do you handle not playing? How do you handle when Coach Red goes in a game and you don't get to play that game? And, and then the mental side of it. Are you going to be able to, handle just the emotional, but can you see like the whole plan of how things work together as a coach and what that coach is trying to do? And spiritually, can you handle, there's a lot of stuff that goes in the game. And I think Gannon learned a lot of that with working with guys like the Kobe, guys that, those Kobe was a thinker, man. And I think all those, everybody always says Kobe. We know that. But I would say every top-notch athlete is probably on that level, like as far as mentally. Like they're ahead of it. Like LeBron's way ahead of the game, man. Let's be honest. Like athletically, yes, but mentally, he understands the game of basketball like nothing else. But he also understands how to handle things when things, not everything's going to be all rosy, right? We, as a coach, me and you, I'm sure you heard me always say, and you probably, we talk about peaks and valleys. It's easy when you're on a 7-game winning streak. What about that 7-game losing streak, dude? Because we've all been. You coach long enough, you're going to have some losing streaks, and you're going to get some, and you're going to have some butt whoopings. Right? How do you handle the butt whoopings? Because they're going to happen. Gannon talks about it. When things don't go well day one, hey, get up the next day and attack the day with enthusiasm. I love that.
That's quote. It. I used to say in camp all the time, nothing great was ever achieved without enthusiasm. And I'd make kids say it till they started to feel it. So
they start believing.
And I think it's a great interview. I think so too. Without further ado, let's listen to my interview with Ganon Baker. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Coach Red and Company. Guys, we have the distinct pleasure this week of talking to what I believe is one of the greatest, if not the greatest, skill development guys in the world for basketball. He obviously has that Michael Jordan jersey up behind him. I've known Ganon. It's definitely been over 20 years that we met when I was the athletic director at Oak Ridge. I just remembered this. Ganon came in for a weekend and did his coaching series to become a Ganon Baker certified coach. When I was living in China, we met up again. He was working with the NBA school over there in Dongguan and went out and watched them play. And, if you ever get a chance, ladies and gentlemen, look at some of his videos online. One thing I love about Ganon and the way he teaches, not only does he teach the game, but he teaches kids why we're doing it, because a lot of kids want to know why. He comes with passion, and he comes with a purpose and a calling. And you can tell right away of talking with him in the first 5-10 minutes that this is definitely something that the man upstairs has put into his heart and blessed him with the ability to do for probably almost close to 30 years now. So, Ganon, appreciate you being here, buddy. Thanks for taking time out to, bless us here at Coach Red and Company. And, give us a scouting report on Ganon Baker.
Well, I appreciate it, Coach Red. Man, we go back decades, but I remember that first clinic we did, man. I appreciate you reaching out and allowing me to do that. And, we always have fun in China, but I was born and raised in Hampton, Virginia. Grew up with two teachers in the household, two brothers, one bathroom, no AC, no internet, no TV. So there you go. Born in 1972 and played for a guy named Boo Williams, Hall of Famer. Won a state championship at Hampton High School. It was only salt and a pepper shaker, Red. You could tell who my parents were when you came to the games. We were the only white people in the gym. So I learned a lot through diversity and being different, and ended up getting a scholarship to Duquesne University, made the all-freshman team, was able to start in the Great Atlantic 10 back when they had Penn State, Rutgers, West Virginia, UMass, George Washington, St. Bonaventure, Great League, Temple, St. Joe's. Cut my teeth there. Fortunately and unfortunately, coach ended up getting fired. So I transferred to UNC Wilmington, played for two great coaches, Kevin Eastman, who I played under for a year, and then he got the Washington State job, and then I played for Jerry Wainwright for a year. We ended up co-champs with Old Dominion. Cut my teeth in coaching. Was a college coach for 5 years, Hampton University, Belmont Abbey, Coastal Carolina, and then didn't get enough player development, right? Didn't get enough on-court time, so I just took a sabbatical, played in Iceland professionally. Loved doing that in the year 2000, 2001. Did some player development stuff in my free time over there. Came back, got hurt. Started my business of shake and bake basketball in Hampton, Virginia, with no internet, no social media, no path. There was no private sector training. Nobody was doing it outside of 5-star camps and some AAU tournaments statewide. So I started it with a machete, carved a path. Tried to play one more time, Red. I don't know if you knew, but I tried out for the Denver Nuggets. My agent got me a tryout with Jeff Bledzelek, was the head coach. Chip England assistant. Adrian Dantley was assistant. Scotty Brooks was the assistant. Chris Anderson was my kind of roommate rookie there during the camp before his Birdman tattoos. Andre Miller was the point. Earl Boykins, great time there. Got cut, wasn't good enough, and then just never looked back. It's my 25th year. Been doing it 6 continents, almost 53 countries, and here we are, man. I'm still doing it. I love it. God has blessed me, as you said, with a gift and a calling, and that's how I look at it.
Yep. And I know, and we'll get into skill development. When I started coaching, obviously when I played in the late 80s and then played junior college for a couple of years, we didn't have I didn't know a whole lot about it. My first 4 years of coaching, 96 to 2000 at Evans High School, had a couple guys come out of there. Some guy named Chocolate Thunder came out there, and Chucky Atkins.
Oh yeah, South Florida.
So didn't know a lot about it. Then I got blessed to go, for a year with Steve Robinson of Florida State as his director of basketball ops, and of course individual instruction is huge at the college level. So I kind of cut my teeth there and learned. And so when I came back and was a head high school coach and a couple assistant jobs before that, I started to do it, and it really helped the kids that I was coaching, and they really appreciated it. So, thanks for shedding away or starting that for us. And, let's talk a little bit about skill development. We talked a little bit off camera, and you sent me some notes. Talk a little bit about what it is, and the importance about it.
Yeah, well, it's player development, and it's person development, and the skills behind it. Growing up, I thought it was we just had coaches, but going to 5-star, going to Paul Webb's Old Dominion camp in Norfolk, Virginia, going to Carolina basketball school, Roy Williams, Dean Smith, you started to see that coaches took a passion into building the person. And I thought at first it was physical. So it was basics, moves and counters, team concepts, right? And the older I got, the more I got into it. And when I became a coach and actually got a master's degree in education and kinesiology, player development turned into holistic skills. It's not, true player development is not just physical, it's also mental, emotional. And if you want to go a deeper level, I call it the Kobe 4D, right? Then you add the spiritual. So in one sentence, player development is getting a player ready to take his superpower to the Avengers, which is his team.
Awesome. And that's, we talk about, in education and, you've been around education, that holistic approach. We want to develop the whole child, and not just one part, because this game is mental. Okay, I have some skills, but if I don't have what I need to between the ears, I'm not going to be as good as I can be. So the importance of player development, talk about how important it is for coaches to understand this and for them to emphasize it and teach it with their players.
Well, whether you're a head coach or an assistant coach on a team, if you are really a true coach and you get in it for the right reasons, not for the money, although it will come, not for the self-esteem boost with the title and everything that comes along with your team and the exposure your team will get if your team wins and if your team has great players, that will come. True coaching is getting in to impact the players, to take them to a place where they want to go and also where they've never been to achieve their goals. That's why you coach. And so if you're in it for the players, you have to have a compartment to build them up, whether you do it or you hire out and delegate. But your system can't work unless they have the tools in the toolbox. I mean, it's that simple. But the irony of our culture and really our world is that education doesn't pay. Entertainment does.
Right.
Teachers don't get paychecks unless they're popular. I mean, that's the way our culture is. So you have to find special dudes that just love it and are called to it. And for example, in the NBA, WNBA, I've had 3 offers in the NBA, one in the WNBA, my career. Recently, I got an offer to coach overseas, but I never took it because I take a pay cut. I never took it because you can't impact like you do at the grassroots.
Right.
And my point is, it's a shame how the player development coaches at the higher levels don't get paid. Probably the least paid has the least paid, the least salary on the team.
Right.
The lowest salary on the team, and so it's not valued. My industry is a no barrier entry industry where anybody can do it. And so it's ambiguous. It's one of the most important things you can do as a coach, but it's the least respected.
Right.
So you have to navigate that and understand that and have a pulse on that as a head coach. But if you're asking me, it's one of the most important things on a team.
And I like your approach, Ganon, when you talk, it's not skill development. So I appreciate you kind of correcting me on that. And I think there's a lot of guys, and I see it here in Orlando and all over, guy might have been a former player, and they start a skill development and forget about the personal development with the player. in the mind and in the heart and everything else. So, I think people, if parents, if you're looking to find somebody to help your child, you need to do a deep dive into those coaches and find somebody that's definitely going to give you that whole child approach. Talk to them about the mental side of the game. Talk to them about, their attitude while they play. Okay, yeah, we're going to learn the skills, but we also have a few other things that we need to learn to be the best player that we can be.
Yeah, and let me elaborate, Red. I mean, skill development is skill. It's not only physical,
Right.
right? Because you can get the player physically seasoned as a machine, and they go into the game and they're narcissistic and they play selfish and they don't know how to be a teammate and they don't know how to be coachable, right? And they don't know how to transfer their positive and or negative emotions, right?
Right.
They don't know how to camouflage their doubt, their fear, their anger, but they don't know how to celebrate, communicate, direct, correct to their teammates. That's the emotional skill that these coaches have to dive into. I mean, heck, I had to learn that. I had to continue to evolve and study that from decade to decade, from learning ability to learning ability. I had to have an aptitude, right, with what I do. And then there's the mental skill of positive self-talk, of slowing the mind down and reading, right, the defensive coverage on offense and making the right decision. It's remembering the scout report on defense and being in the right position to communicate and negotiate, your coverages. So that's the mental. And then the spiritual is you do the physical, you do the mental, you do the emotional. Man, you still have unrest. You don't have peace. You put in all the work and you don't trust your work. Well, man, that's where the mental health coaches come in. That's where the solitude, the relationship with God and Jesus, the prayer, the visualization. I mean, you can see some of these goats in real time do some skill development spiritually during the game. It's deep breathing, it's trigger words, trigger touches, it's trigger looks during the game to get themselves centered and at peace. I know this all sounds corny and magical, but go talk to a psychologist and a mental health strategist. I know enough to help guys through it, and if they want a deeper dive, they go see a professional, right? A
Right.
Ganon Baker, mental
Right.
health coach. But physical is just a small part of it. That was my only suggestion with people and their paradigm of, all right, skill development. It's not just physical.
So, how much of your coaching program, when guys are signing up to be a Ganon Baker certified, trainer, do you touch on those sides of it? The
Yeah,
mental and the
yeah. I would say 25% physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. That's the 100% program. If they see it live, then more so 50%. We talk about the mental and emotional side of coaching, right? Because um, that's basically what a coach is. After you understand the information as a coach, now you have to have execution. You have to learn how to teach. You have to learn now how to connect the dots when they doubt you, right? Or their emotions are taking them somewhere else and there's not trust. And then you need inspiration and how to build that relationship daily, because your voice will get familiar. They're going to get bored. It becomes mundane and monotonous. Welcome to life. And
right.
so the pitfalls and the daily relational charisma that you got to bring is emotion too. So it's that, and that's what I'm saying, man. Like, if you really want to be great at what you do, the best version of yourself, if you want to be your own GOAT, if you want to be one of the best in the world, if you want to be a winner, whatever you want to call it, like you it has to be an unbreakable agape passion. which is
Right.
Greek for agape is Greek for unconditional. Like nothing, the game, nothing, this career, nothing, this season of my life that I'm in can do to me for me to quit on it, give up on it, be less of my best daily. Like there's nothing. I'm a show up, be amazing, and then go back to bed. Like that's been my attitude ever since I was 13 when I fell in love with this game and I didn't turn back. Now, did I have bad days? Yeah. Did I get knocked out at times? Yeah. But the next day, you wake up and you keep fighting, Coach Red.
That's
You
it.
keep
That's
fighting,
it.
man.
I mean, the journey never stops. So if you
If you
don't
love
get
it,
up,
it doesn't. Yeah.
if you just get up every day and say, okay, we're going to go get better today. We're going to make somebody better today, um, and get after it. So how do leaders lead themselves to impact others?
That's a great question. Number one, you have to have a role model. You have to have a visualization of, all right, this is who I want to be, this is where I want to go. So you have to get that picture from somewhere. It might be a vision from God. Usually I think God sends people in your lives, movies, books, stories, live, authentic people to inspire you to say, you know what? Yeah, that's what I want to do in my own way. So that's the first thing. You need to be inspired. All right. Number two, all right, now that you make that decision, hey, I want to be a fireman. All right. I want to be a leader in the fireman's world. Coach Red, for example. Maybe that's Fireman Red. I don't know.
Yeah.
You're wearing red all day. That's who you are. You bleed red blood. Now you got to go get information. So it's visualization, information. Okay. These are the answers to the test. These are the problems. Here's the solution. And you become competent, right, with what you care about. You
Right.
become the best you can be. And then, all right, you got to get reps. So like if you're a coach and you want to be a coach, the best thing I did was just start coaching.
Right.
And as a summer job at 5-Star, I was 18 and I didn't care if I was coaching the seniors or the freshmen at the camp. I just wanted to coach. And I think that's why God eventually sent me the GOATs. I've been in front of LeBron. I've worked out with Kobe. I've sweated with Ray Allen, Manu Ginobili. Just GOATs. I was just in Miami a month ago with some of the GOATs of the WNBA. I'm walking through the locker rooms and the gyms, and they're like grabbing me. I'm like, man, Chelsea Gray, you know me? Man,
Right.
Brianna Stewart, like they know me. Angel Reese was like, what's up, G? I'm like, I never met you. What's up? You know what I mean? So like you have to get reps at coaching. And so that's application. Your repetitions determine your reputation. So if you want to be a leader, then get reps at leading and everything that leading stands for, which basically you're helping people with their speech, their standards, and their self-esteem among many things. But for me, it's those three. And then once you have that, you have transformation. You know what I mean? After enough reps and sweat and time, you start transforming into a leader where you don't have to think.
Right.
I always say the truth fears no question. And if you live it, you take it, you tell it. I got that from Kevin Eastman. Again, I studied Coach E he says that, he does that. So that's a good formula. That's good information. Let me have application. Like to me, that formula is what it is. Visualization, information, application equals transformation. Now you're leading others. You walk into a room, you just flow. You go on instincts. You can tell after 5 minutes or what kind of person that they are, what kind of player they are, because people tell on themselves. What are they telling on? Whatever you study holistically. When you're riding in a car, Coach, are you listening to music or are you listening to Coach Red's podcast and learning? You on a plane, you watching Netflix, or are you taking notes and writing journals or reading a book? But as much as I can, I'm not saying I'm a workaholic. I'm not. But I maximize the day. I win the day through application to try to be a great leader. And as you said, you can't. That's a great point you made. You can't lead others unless you lead yourself, right? So
Right.
if you're trying to teach confidence to your players, well, they feel your confidence, coach. They're
Right.
seeing a lesson of confidence. Your first meeting. So if your team's not confident, it's because of how they perceive you.
Right.
And it's how you are transferring that confidence. True story. You tell me any most confident coaches, if not all of them, a Tom Izzo, a Don Staley, a Rick Pitino, their teams play with unbelievable toughness and confidence because they're tough. They
Yep.
create a culture of toughness where kids have to make decisions to be
Yeah.
confident and tough every single day because that leader manufactures it. I remember playing against John Chaney's team 3 times a year when I was at Duquesne, my freshman year, sophomore year. Man, that's the toughest team still I've ever played in my life. Rick Brunson, point guard, Eddie Jones, Mark Macon. Remember those names?
Yep. Yep.
Unbelievable. I don't know Chucky Atkins' story, but I'm going to say this. When I was at UNC Wilmington, we played the University of South Florida. He was the toughest son of a gun I think I played in my college career, one of the toughest. Now, I would think, all right, Chucky probably came from the hood, correct?
He did. He did. Yep. Pine
I
Hills,
mean,
Florida.
I walked to the hood. I kind of grew up to the hood because I put myself there every day. Like he had a fight. Still, he was fighting, and I was
Yep.
in his way. So he was trying to kill me. I mean, it's a
You know.
beautiful thing,
Yep.
but
You
he
know
had
that.
to go through that. Now he possesses that because you can't lead what you don't have.
Right. And as far as Chucky, I remember playing against him, as he was in high school and then going over to South Florida. He was about this big around. I mean, he was scrawny.
Really?
And at first, I was like, man, this cat ain't gonna make it over there because his dad, Big Chuck, went everywhere he went. And we were in the boys' club one day, and obviously, he goes around me, and I gave him a little shove in the back. Wasn't enough, to hurt him, but just enough to kind of throw off that layup in the shot. Man, as soon as I turned around, here's Big Chuck. Don't you ever do that, to my kid. And I'm like, man, this kid ain't. But I mean, he is a tough nut.
Huh.
I talk to him. We play golf every once in a while now. He's a golf addict. But you talked about teams take on that personality of their coach. And I've been a firm believer of that for a while. And I used to watch my teams when I was a coach. Just are they playing with that same intensity and fire that I tried to bring to practice every day? I'd see some guys that were kind of just mild mannered coaches that didn't yell, didn't get up, and rah rah or anything, and their teams kind of played that way, and it's like, so it's that whole mindset of, leading your team, and getting better every day. I've always had the philosophy, if I don't go to 2 or 3 clinics before the season and get better myself, how can I make my team better? So, I like that.
And Coach Red, let me speak my heart if you don't mind.
Oh, please do.
How about this as a high school coach, right? How about this as a high school coach? Ask your team, how do they want to play in the spring after they finish their year? Like, go through the strengths, share with your team, hey, here's what we do well, here's what we need to work on, but how do you guys want to play next year? And then ask them, what are your individual goals?
Right.
Because in my experience, and again, man, I'm in front of well over 10,000 players a year and coaches. So, I mean, I'm in the space. I'm getting a sabbatical. I get paid to do a sabbatical every year. I see it. I was in Austin this past weekend. I'm going to Toledo and Akron next weekend. I mean, I see it, and I just feel bad for these high school kids. Now, do the kids have kryptonite? Absolutely. Like, don't get me started. But it would help the connection because I get high school kids and coaches to pay me, and I come in and call them out.
Right.
I mean, I call them out. I give them a metaphorical butt kicking. And they're allowed to do the same to me. Hey, if I'm off, let me know. If I need to work on something or I'm wrong, call me out. So it's an open door.
Yep.
So that's why I train so hard, because I know that I'm setting myself up for some criticism, because I go hard at people in public,
Yep.
and they pay me. They sell out our stuff. I'm continuing to be in business, so I know it works if you allow. This is one of the Hall of Fame habits of world champions. If you allow them to express themselves, like, let these high school kids express themselves of how they want to play, how they want to be treated. And then if they agree and there's an alignment with passion and vision, I'm telling you, the relationship will go smoother. You will have clarity in your accountability as a coach. But what happens is these kids are put into a communistic system
Yep. Yep.
with little control and little help to get these kids to the next level. The ones that work and want it, with their next level college recruitment, and that's the root problem of parents, players, and high school coaches.
Yeah, I think when you do ask those types of questions, you get a lot of buy-in now. Okay,
Exactly.
this is what you told me. This is, you guys said we want to play like this. These are our strengths. Okay, well, today we're working on the weaknesses we talked about. So I'm expecting you to go hard, to get better on these things. So I never did that as a coach, but if I ever go back to coaching, and we all change and get better as we obviously get older and learn. But I think that's a great idea. In the spring, working over the summer. Now kids in high school can play fall league, summer league with their high school team. You could pretty much play year round with your high school team. So there's no reason, I guess, for coaches to not make their kids better and not have those types of conversations if you're truly in it for those right reasons.
Yeah. And I'm not saying you agree with everything, but you allow the kids to be heard.
Right.
And then you kind of meet them where they're at. I mean, I know that was a strategy by Greg Popovich that I shared, that Manu Ginobili shared with me. I know Coach Krzyzewski changes his system every year. I just think that if you're going to do it the right way, you got to be a caring, compassionate, flexible, open-minded, thick-skinned,
Right.
right, tight standards, grassroots coach.
And you mentioned Hall of Fame habits, and I know you've talked before about the 5 Hall of Fame habits. Can
Yeah.
you share those with us?
Well, number one is get through hard, right? You got to get through hard as a coach. So it's hard coaching these kids nowadays. It's hard, teaching and then going, well, how do you get through it? Then find the right solutions. The great ones work out hard, but they do it right. That's how they get through hard. Because as life goes on, as the season goes on, as time goes on, it doesn't get any easier. It's just, I got better.
Right.
Right. And their pain tolerance has gone up. You know what I mean? So if you continue to have a high passion, that will always be greater than the pain. But the Hall of Famers, man, when they do something hard, they do it right. They elbows in, hands out. They continue to develop things the right way where it becomes part of their skin. Number two, they're great teammates. Like Hall of Famers or Hall of Fame leaders, their words create their world. They're elite communicators. They trim the fat off what they're saying. They're very clear. They're competent. There's many ways to success. 2 + 2 = 4, but also 3 + 1.
Right.
So they always are finding currently what's the best way. It might not be illegal, might be legal, but that might not be right for us. So they're always looking for ways to competently teach, right? And they're always looking to have conversation that doesn't break hearts but breaks habits. They hold out on what first comes to mind. Like Bill Russell once said, look, man, whatever you think of first, pause on that. Say the second thing that comes to your mind, because a lot of times we speak from our flesh, our anger, our judgment. And a lot of these elite leaders, their words spark curiosity. So, it's get through hard. It's, being a great teammate, talking and touching. And then the third Hall of Fame habit is, man, leaders, great players. They're always curious, not judgmental. I mean, they're growth learners. So how does LeBron, for example, play 40 years? How does a Kobe stay with one team? How does Dawn Staley, end up becoming great? They learn. They never get tired of being better. They're growth learners. Tony Robbins says growth is a bridge to joy. When you're learning physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, right? That gets you excited every day. It's addictive. It keeps you young.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And number 4, their truth fears no question. They stand up for themselves. Great leaders, great people, Hall of Famers express themselves when they think they're being disrespected or they have a question. They're not afraid, and they're unapologetic of people's criticism, right? They are so convicted that they're not arrogant. They just offend people that are insecure
Right.
because they're always speaking their mind. A lot of times they just want to be understood, and they want to make sure the perception of what they're doing is received the right way. So they don't fear anybody's question. They don't question themselves when they know they're speaking up
Right.
for the truth. It might be an organizational thing where, hey, I don't think we need to trade Kyrie, or you know what, it might be a political thing or a life thing. Look, I'm not taking a shot for the pandemic, but they're authentically and genuinely themselves. And then the 5th one is, and this is dear to my heart because, it's happened in my family. It's happened in people that I've mentored. But Red, as you know, 1 in 3 teenagers, and they even say in life, it might be more, but one in 3 are depressed.
Yeah.
The leading cause of death for 19-year-old teenagers, 19 and under, right, is car crashes, distracted driving. The second leading cause of death is suicide, right? There's more stories and observations and experiences with me training college players, professional players that don't enjoy the game, that have lost that love for the game because of distractions, because of the darkness of depression. So the 5th one is, man, if the greats, the Hall of Famers, the world champions, they play with joy, but they work with joy.
Right.
They never lose their love. They find a way to be grateful. They find a way to be motivated. They find a way to express enthusiasm and energy all the time. They never talk with cynicism in general, right? They might have a day or two here, but their spirit is not of bitterness or cynicism or ungratefulness, but it's of positivity, of joy, of appreciation for their gifts for other people. They're aware. They treat people the same. And, I've been around those players, Ray Allen, Manu Ginobili, Amaya Moore, Lindsey Whalen, Cheryl Reeves, Teresa Weatherspoon, Phil Handy. It's just, these people, Amari Stoudemire, like they have a childlike joy in their work, and it's addictive to humans. So work hard, get through hard, do it right. Number 2, your words create your world. Be a great teammate. Number 3, be curious, not judgmental. Number 4, stand up for yourself. The truth fears no question. Have a voice. And number 5, play with and live with joy. Number 6, but you can kind of put it into number 1. How do you get through hard? Well, you compete, right? You don't complain.
Right.
and that's how you get through hard. I forgot to mention that, but yeah, man. I mean, so as a coach, like that's your culture. You know, what I mean, if you do those 5 things, you win.
Yeah.
Because it's always funny to me. Everybody has the same stuff in their locker room. Loyalty, nothing wrong with that.
Right.
Work hard, you play together, cool. But like Kobe, when I met Kobe, everything I started to do after that was with more detail.
Yeah.
Like, he was like into details because we're talking about be the best you can be one of the greatest ever. Like that's what you got to be as a coach now to draw the best out of these kids. It's hard, man. So you got to dive into detail. You got to really define loyalty. All right, what's playing together? Can the kids tell you that and regurgitate it back to me in 2 sentences? Can they
Right.
define hard work? I mean, losers work hard. People that get 3rd place, Red, work hard.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's got to be more than just work hard. And then Kobe went deep. He went deep with his concepts. He defined it. He went into detail, and then he lived it the next day with discipline. What's discipline? Doing the right thing when you don't feel like it.
Yep.
Doing the right thing, whether you're a champion or a chump, you're going to do it because eventually your future self is going to win.
Yeah. Yep. And I see a lot of his, videos now of interviews he's done. And, he talked about, just one little thing about putting up, a few hundred shots every single day. He said, if another guy only does it, works out for an hour or two, 2 or 3 times a week, and you're working 3 hours a day, 6, 7 days a week over the course of a year, you're going to be so much better than that guy,
Yeah,
and it's
it's
just
deep.
the mind of Kobe. And unfortunately, with his gone so early, he was a pretty brilliant dude. Just the way he thought and, the arguing the greatest of all time and yada, yada, yada. But that dude was different. I mean, he was, locked in and just, I hear stories of how he prepared and, you hear guys, get up 6:30 in the morning, come down to the hotel and breakfast, and Kobe's got ice on and the shirt sweating. He's already been out for 2 hours, working out. And they're like, holy cow. But, definitely a different mindset for sure.
Ray Allen said, man, teach these young people that winning changes their life.
Yeah.
Learning how to win, the process of being a winner, the Hall of Fame habits, the holistic skills, the relationships, man, it changes your life. So now you go into, the real world, and as Kevin Sutton always says, you become a living trophy.
Yeah.
Right? And you change your family, you change your community. Heck, you do what I've tried to do the last 25 years, man. You try to change the world one gym at a time, through basketball.
I definitely think you're doing it. I love watching you, Ganon. I love talking to you, the way that you just approach things. And, you're kind of a D2 Eminem guy. Your rapping skills, you put, words and sound. I love all that. So thank you for taking time out, your schedule to join us, and just talk about everything. And, for those that want to reach out to you, Ganon, and maybe get you to come by the gym or do some speaking for them, how can they reach you?
Yeah, I appreciate that, Red. I mean, I still go do camps, team workouts. I do coaching consultation. I have a mentorship where coaches come to me here in Melbourne Beach, Florida, and we go through the holistic curriculum of leading, and have an online curriculum. We can do that as well online. We have 12 Zoom sessions you can sign up for. So I'm easy to, for lack of a better way, just GANONBAKER on Google. And if you Google me, I come up, but my Instagram is Ganon_Baker_. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter, LinkedIn, and I have a website, GanonBakerBasketball.com. It's easy to get in touch with me, and it's been an honor to talk about life in basketball, Red. You asked some good questions. I appreciate your candidness, and it's been an honor for you to allow me to speak my truth and tell my story, and hopefully educate and inspire people who are listening to us today.
Yep. Well, I appreciate you, bud. You're always welcome here. I love what you do, and I mean, it's amazing what this game of basketball has done for both of our lives, where
Amen.
it's taken us and, the
Amen.
platform we've been able to, hopefully touch some young people's lives along the way. So, Gannon, I appreciate you, brother. Go take care of those beautiful kids and that lovely wife of yours. And, we'll be in touch soon, buddy.
All right, Coach Red. Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you, buddy.
All right.
I love the interview. I love talking to Ganon. As you can tell, just great insight into a lot of different areas of this game of basketball. He did talk about, like I told you earlier, he did correct me in thinking it was just skill development, talked about it being player development. He says that skill development is part of it, but you also got to have the mental part of it. Are you a narcissistic type player? Are you just going to come in and just try to jack up all the shots? Are you going to be able to mentally understand the game and the ebb and the flow, time and score? When do I pass the ball? When do I shoot the ball? Getting my teammates involved. The emotional side of it, can you handle a little bit of adversity? Like Coach Shane mentioned earlier, you lose 6 or 7 games in a row, or, you may miss 6 or 7 shots in a row during the game. Okay, how can I kind of refocus? Gannon talk about, trigger words and touches and those types of things. I've seen George Kittle from San Francisco 49ers, some video of him on the sideline kind of doing some self-talk that he's better than the way he's playing. And, those great athletes are able to do that. And if we can get young people to kind of have that understanding of what that's all about, whether it's working with a sports psychologist or, their coach has some insight into how to do that, then I think we're going to provide a better service for these players. And I love Gannon's quote, Coach. He says, his job as a personal or a player development guy is getting the player's superpower ready to take to the Avengers, his team.
Yeah,
take to his team. So, your thoughts on the interview when he talks about those 4 areas?
Yeah, I thought it was a great interview, man. Coach Red did a really good job, had some good questions. Gannon gave some great information. When he talked about the player development, I think he was specifically talking about the player development coach, who he talked about it as he thinks, and let's be honest, that's because he is a player development coach. So I understand, but he thinks that's probably the most important guy on the staff besides the head coach.
Without a doubt.
Because that guy brings a lot to the table. And what's going to happen, high school coaches, you're probably not going to be able to go out and get a player developmental guy. I mean, you might, maybe your freshman coach is your player developmental guy or your JV coach, or if you're lucky enough, right? But I think specifically what he's talking about, Coach Red, is as the head coach, you got to be able to bring all those 4 levels to the game. You got to bring the mental, the emotional, the physical, and the spiritual for those guys for your players to really, be able to attain that superpower, and bring it back to the team. And that's why we're talking here about college coaching in the title, more than X's and O's, right? Like the X's and O's are great, but the old saying, me and Red are from the old school, and the old saying was, it ain't about the X's and O's, it's about the Jimmies and the Joes, But now it's about the Jimmies and the Joes, but it's about how good can you make the Jimmies and the Joes, right? Can you prepare them for those situations? Can you prepare them for the emotional? Can you prepare them for the physical, which is the easy part, I feel like, right? Because you're doing that every day in practice. And then the spiritual part. And, taking time out of your practice to make sure that you go over and you touch on each of those areas every day in practice, or every couple days, or, as a coach, picking out the one like, hey, I think we need to really work on the emotional part. I see the guys are down. We got a tough game last night. Let's talk to them about a little bit of adversity and being able to bounce back. So I think as a coach, you start to write that down, off-season plan, right? You come up with your off-season plan for the year, and maybe you don't start with the X's and O's of, are we going to be a transition team? Are we going to be a half-court team? What kind of defense? Or in football, whatever, right? and you start thinking about how am I going to attack the mental side, the emotional side, the spiritual side, and the physical side of preparing my athletes to then move into the team concept. And we all know, it's like a puzzle, right? The stronger each individual is, the stronger that team's going to be. Krzyzewski used to say, one finger can't hardly hurt you, but you put five together as a fist, something along
Right.
those lines, and that can cause major
Yeah.
problems. So I think as a high school coach, it's asking a lot of you, right? It's asking a lot.
Well, I think it's like
But
anything, Shane.
we do it because we
I think
love
it's
it,
like
right?
anything. If you want to be great at what you do, you have to constantly be
Yeah.
learning. And that's one of his, 5 keys, 5 Hall of Fame traits, right? Was being a growth learner. And we'll talk about that in a few minutes. Yep. If I don't have the money to go out and hire a player development coach to be able to touch on these, then doggone it, I got to learn those things. Right. So, coach, if you don't have somebody on staff that's qualified, or you can't afford because of public school budgets can't allow you to afford to go out and hire a skill development guy, then as coaches, we have to do a better job of learning, and being growth mindsets and lifelong learners, like one of the Hall of Fame habits we'll talk about in a little bit. You got to go out and seek out how to do these things. Ganon offers that course. You could do it by Zoom. If you're in Florida and close by, you could always go over to Melbourne Beach. But I think even as a baseball, football, soccer coach, it doesn't matter. What he's teaching you isn't sport specific. It's skill specific. And kids play whatever sport have mental issues, right? There's emotional issues. Everybody has a spiritual side, and you have to develop that on your own based on your own beliefs. But I think the mental and the emotional side, whether you took his course, as a lacrosse coach, you can apply that to your sport. what
100%.
skills you have to develop in the skills section to be a great lacrosse player, or a great wide receiver, or running back, or a great, wrestler. So there's certain things that you could figure out and learn from different coaching clinics that you go to for your sport specific. But I think what he's trying to get to on the mental and the emotional side would pretty much cover all the different sports,
Absolutely.
So, that's my thing. I've said this before. I always had to go to 2 or 3 different camps or clinics before every season. So I felt like I knew what I was doing and refreshed. And, even if you get a group, 3 or 4 or 5 coaches together, and you guys go out to eat, or you come in for a day and, somebody's house, and you just kind of go through a bunch of different things, we all have the same issues with kids, especially today. Kids today are more emotional. They're more mental than ever before. I think they were a lot tougher mentally back in the day. I know, when I coached, I talked a lot about mental toughness when we played, but I don't know if I went into kind of like Gannon talks about, different things on the court, seeing different things, knowing different things, but I guess, kind of knew enough to be dangerous kind of thing. Right.
Yeah.
So, I think those parts of it, if I can't find somebody to do it, or that wants to come in and work on that, then I got to go learn some stuff myself. Like I think Gannon said, he goes, I know enough, to be able to help guys. Obviously he's not a certified sports psychologist, or mental health counselor, but he understands how the mental part works, obviously on the basketball side. So, I think coaches have to do a better job educating themselves to get better.
Yeah. And Gannon mentioned that, if he can't get to that level to help that player, then that player might have to go out and find someone that's like 100% in that field, like a sports psychologist, to help him get over the yips or whatever he's got.
Yeah.
But he mentioned a mentor being a big part of finding a mentor as a coach, and having that mentor help you with, to learn those things. You learn from the best, right? You learn from people that have done it already, and you pick up 1 or 2 things from this guy, a couple things from this one, a couple things from that one, and you kind of put it together, and you end up with Coach Reg's coaching style, and Coach Shane's style, and Coach whoever's style I mean, no coach is always going to be the same. We always going to put your own little, flair or your own little substance into it,
Yeah.
right? But we always said, we're not going to try to reinvent the wheel here. It is what it is. Some things, we pick up a couple things in here and we put our little icing on it to make it look like it's new, but really it's something that was taught from Bobby Knight in 1978. And, 80% mental, 20% physical. People still talk about that to this day. I guarantee it. And the number might be a little different, but you know what? Sounds pretty good to me. So let's roll with it. So find a good mentor. Find someone out there. Coach Red will tell you he had plenty. Roy Williams, Steve Robinson, all big time coaches that mentored him from very young.
So yeah, I did have a lot of guys that
Yeah.
I learned from, that I kind of, wanted to emulate a little bit, and, just kind of pulled it together and made it my own, and Gannon had a quote about coaching. He said, true coaching is impacting the players, taking them to where they want to go and to where they've never been,
Wow.
and I would, dare to add where they've never believed they could go.
Yeah. Where they never even thought they could go.
And I think that's what coaches do. Like, we see more in players than what they see in themselves. And, all of this development, this holistic development of teaching the whole player and the whole child, if we do that as coaches, then we're going to have players that are going to be better off. They're going to go farther, and they're going to, accomplish more things,
Well, Red, when he talked about impacting players,
Yep.
like as a coach, we want to win games. But and if you're a coach that loves it, man, you're just trying to impact kids, man. You're trying to make a difference in a kid's life. And we all, what's our number one thing we always talk about when we're coaches, when guys hit us back up 20 years later? I just had a guy hit me. He's a high school coach in the area, first year this year. Man, I ain't talked to this guy in 20 years. He called me up. We started chatting. Next thing you know, we're having dinner together. And he's telling me, Coach, man, I remember when we used to do this. And, man, I still talk about that with the players today. When I was in college, I talked about that. Now I'm coaching my kids. I'm telling them the same thing you told me, man. That's 20 years ago.
Right.
Because as much as the game changes, the game kind of stays the same too.
Yeah. I mean, you still got to put the ball in the hoop.
The more it changes, the more it stays the same. The more coaching changes, the more it stays the same. I mean, we've all seen the Rick Pitino clips recently. I bet Coach Red gave that speech 25 years ago.
Probably.
In the locker room at E-High. Probably louder than that.
Now I know
probably
which one you're talking about. Yeah,
probably
exactly.
louder than that.
But I think there's a couple beeps in that video.
But he's keeping it real. And here's the thing, Red. Everyone that sees that clip goes, dude, that's what we need more of nowadays.
Right.
Like we're because people are understanding it's. I remember Bobby Knight's wife. Bobby Knight's wife said if he sticks around long enough, he's going to come back into style.
Right.
Meaning, like, his tough coaching went out for a while, right? She said if you stick around long enough, it'll come back in style. And now, like Rick Pitino's, like the clips you're seeing, he's not treating them very soft, is he?
Right.
I mean, he's getting in them. He's getting in them. So I think people are seeing, like, man, maybe we need to. I mean, obviously there's a level, right? You can't cross the line, but you got to toe the line sometimes. Like, you got to get on that line, because if you're too nice a guy, then they're going to take advantage of you. If you're too hard, maybe they don't like it. So it's, coaching's that tough game, right? You got to find that.
Look,
you got to respect the players. I always tell my kids at school, hey, I'll hug you when you do things right, and when you do things wrong, I'll discipline you.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I have to do. I mean, that's how the world works.
And Gannon talked about, I don't know if we're going to show it in this video or this interview or not, but Gannon talked about, when you're hard on a kid, or a kid gets upset because a coach cussed at him, or, didn't play him or whatever, he's going to leave. Right. And with the portal in college and even in high school, now you can go wherever you want, whenever you want, and it's all because you got your feelings hurt. Well, that's part of the emotional and the mental side of coaching. Right. And being a great player, you have to be able to deal with somebody getting after you. And the only reason they get after you is because they care. And Gannon talked about in the coaching part, Shane, coaches need to get into this avocation for the right reason, not for the money, because he said, the money will come. He said, not for the title, not for the self-esteem boost, not for the team exposure that it gets you. You mentioned one of the traits a few minutes ago about having a role model. So Gannon talks about, leaders, right? And to be a great leader, you can't just try to go out there and figure this thing out yourself, right? You got to have a role model that you look up to, that you want to kind of emulate, to say, you know what? I like the way this guy treats people. I like the way this guy handles his business on and off the court. I like the way this guy coaches. I like his coaching style. Find you a mentor that you can kind of look up to and emulate, and he talks about, it inspires you, right? You want somebody that inspires you to be better than what you are. And so you got to have that visualization. I got to be able to see what I want to be, you know? And I
whoever
think,
that coach may be.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be in coaching, right? I mean, if you're a leader of
it
somebody
could be,
at your
100%.
job, find a supervisor or, a vice president or the president of the company or somebody higher up in that company or in another company that's similar than yours, and find somebody that's a great leader and use them as a role model, somebody that you can visualize. Put them up on your mirror in the morning, so every day you see that person, when you get up and you visualize it, and then you have to get information about whatever it is you're doing. So if you're a basketball coach, you're a football coach, you got to go out and learn the X's and O's. You got to go out and learn the intricacies of that sport. You got to learn the skill development part of that sport, the mental development, the emotional development of that sport. So you got to get information, that goes along with it, and then he talked about getting reps.
Application. I thought this was kind of cool. He brought this up.
Yeah, you got to get reps. He said he wanted to coach, so he just started coaching at 5-star. I didn't care if it was the middle school kids, the high school kids, didn't matter. I wanted to coach. And so he opens his business. I just wanted to train kids. So he starts training. And, now, heck, he's been to 53 countries. He's gone to 6 continents. Obviously, he's not doing skill development with the penguins down in the Antarctica. It's probably the only one he's not been on. But you got to get application. You got to get out there and you got to coach. And he has a little kind of the saying, if you have visualization and you get information and you have put it into application, you're going to have transformation. So you're going to change yourself. If I visualize what I want to do and I get the information I need to do whatever it is I'm doing, if it's coaching, which we're talking about, if I get all the information I need to be a great coach and I'm at clinics and I'm, talking with buddies and we're having little powwows together, and then I put that I execute that and I give it application, then as a coach, I'm a transform myself into being a great coach. And that's one thing I like about, I called him the D2 Eminem rapper. Because, if you ever watch him on the court, he's always throwing words together and they make perfect sense. They go together and you're like, man, God dang, that makes a lot of sense. Visualization plus information plus application equals transformation. You tell I wasn't a math guy.
No.
And once you get transformed, I love the next thing he says, the truth fears no questions. So once you've transformed yourself, once you've been around this game for a while or whatever sport you coach for a while, and you have that information and you're applying it and you're doing these things, you walk into a room, people are going to automatically know that guy's got his stuff together. That young lady's got her stuff together. She's put in the time, it's not just a longevity thing where, okay, well, I've been at this school for 20 years and, I've gotten, 400 wins just because, I've outlasted everybody and, I got the best players in the county. It is what it is.
Right.
You want to be that person that people look up to and be like, does it with class, gets her players, developed. And, regardless of whether they're in the program 1 year or 4 years, they got better at all stages of the game. I made them a better young man, because that's what I dealt with. Or if I coach young ladies, I made her, a better young lady than she was when she walked into my program. I also made them a better player, whatever sport I coach. Hopefully my 1 year as a JV baseball coach, I made kids a little bit better. I doubt it, but
Did you have Frank Scott?
I did have Frank Scott and
Bob,
Wes
then you did a
Montgomery
good
that
job
year.
because
Yeah,
Frank Scott's a good baseball and he's a heck of a baseball coach.
he is a heck of a baseball coach,
and he's a really good person.
He is. He's a great. He comes from great stock. His mom was amazing. His dad's amazing. Was amazing. He's got one brother that was, I believe, still coaching college football. He's just a great young man. And so I think as leaders, we have to, we create a culture within our program, right? And Gannon said, if your team lacks something, it's how they perceive you, right? If your team is not tough, they don't perceive you as being tough.
Yeah, look in the mirror because it's probably you.
Coaches create the culture of their program. If you allow kids in your program to run rampant, say what they want, do what they want, you have no control and no discipline over your team, it's because you probably have no discipline, as a coach. And, I always said, and I mentioned it, I think, in the interview, that I'm a firm believer that players take on the personality of their coach. Tom Izzo
100%.
is a fiery dude, tough, and his guys play that way. You hear stories about him having basketball practice with helmets and shoulder pads on. You could ask some of my guys, especially at Cypress, some of the drills we did, and I remember we were doing this crazy block charge drill, and, then you had to come down and score a basket with me, and I had the pad and banging on. Our athletic trainer walked in, saw what was going around, turned around and walked right back.
I'm out of here.
Oh my gosh, I can't be a part of this.
You might get some calls on that nowadays if you were that
exactly.
guy.
But I think our kids played hard. We played you guys. When y'all had D Wash in the freeze bowl. At Cypress Creek. If I had to look back, I would say it was less than 10-point game. Just because they played hard.
Right.
So I think as leaders, we've got to do a better job as coaches. We're leaders of young men and young women. We have got to do a better job of developing ourselves first and then teaching those habits that we've learned to our players.
Right. Well, when it comes to that leader, I look at that visualization, information, application, transformation. And I remember I did, after I graduated, I moved to the Poconos up in Pennsylvania for a couple months. And I think I worked 13 weeks in a row of the Pocono Invitational, which was kind of a Hoop Group runs it. So it was kind of like a little subsidiary, a smaller one, a 5-star. You stayed out in these cabins out in the middle of the Poconos. The courts were dark tar. You had to put stuff under your eyes so you didn't burn. And there was 300 kids out there staying in cabins. And all you did was coach all day, every day. And I did that 13 weeks in a row. And I still have fond memories, and I still have friends that I met there. And I remember things that I did there that carried over even into high school. Like, hey, I remember I did this once at the Poconos. Coach, maybe we should try that. And it was crazy how that worked. And that transformed me into the, all that combined together transformed me into kind of the coach I was at that time. So it was funny when he mentioned the application on how he just said, hey, I coached anything and everything.
Yeah.
And got to remember, I coached, Pop Warner football for 5, 6, 7 years. I'm a PE teacher, so I really coach, pretty much every sport, so to speak. So it was good that the application. I think that younger guys need to hear that part.
Right.
Get in whatever you're coaching, tennis, bowling, lacrosse, track and field. I love track and field, one of my favorite sports of all time. Get out there and coach it. That's the only way you get better, right? When you go to work, Red, you don't get better by not doing the job. You got to do the job over and over and over and over and over. And the more reps you do, either you become really good at it or you find a new job.
Gannon also said, and I'm looking at this quote, and like I said, I got 2 or 3 pages of notes. You can't lead what you don't have. You can't lead what you don't have. And that goes back to information. Well, if I don't have it, I got to go get it. But you also got to be self-aware and be honest with yourself that, hey, I'm not good in this area, or I don't have these skills. So I'm going to go find me a mentor. I'm going to get the information that is going to allow me to perform those skills. And then I'm going to go out and just repetition and perform them, and then hopefully, I become transformed and I'm able to coach those types of skills because, now I've picked them up and I've learned them. So,
Red, one thing there, the information part.
Yep.
I think a lot of us coaches, okay, well, I would say most of us coaches have some sort of ego. Like,
without a doubt.
It is what it is, right? I mean, some are bigger, some are less. It's really hard for us coaches to admit we don't know something. It's tough. You don't want to ever have somebody call you out on the rug and you're like, oh man, I really don't know that. You kind of feel like you do. So I think maybe that part where you're admitting to yourself, like, I don't know that and I need to learn that.
Right.
That might be a part that trips up a lot of people, because a lot of people might say, no, I know that. I know that already. And in their head, they think they know it, but in reality, they really don't know it.
Yep.
So I could see that being a spot where it can trip you up just because you kind of let your pride of thinking that you know it already.
Yeah.
Instead of it, nobody likes to admit they don't know things.
Yep.
It takes a real person to admit, say, hey, Red, you know what? I don't know that. Can you teach me?
Yeah.
Like that's hard as a grown man.
It is. It is.
Or a grown lady, right?
Yeah, you
or
got to check
a
your ego.
25-year-old boy or girl. You got to check your ego at the door on that
Check
one.
it at the door. Exactly.
And that's not so easy to do nowadays. I always say pride will get you in trouble, man. Sometimes you can be too proud of yourself.
As they say, pride goes before the fall.
Oh, I love that one. That's 100% true.
So, Coach, let's talk about these 5 Hall of Fame habits.
I love them.
Take us through those.
Well, and these are 5 Hall of Fame habits, and I would say these are 5 Hall of Fame habits that will help you become Hall of Fame in life as well, not just coaching. And I think if you're a player, these are 5 habits you want to have. He mentioned one. He said, get through hard. Like, get through the hard times. Find solutions to get through the hard times. Because if you think you're going to play sports and never have any hard times, or you think you're going to coach and never go through hard times, or you think you're going to live life and never go through hard times, that ain't going to happen. So are you going to be someone that can find the solution and get through hard times? He also mentioned being an elite community. Okay.
Hang on real quick on that. Get through hard.
Yeah.
His quote was, compete, don't complain.
Compete, don't complain.
Compete. You just got to fight. Yeah. You got to
keep going.
The wall's not just going to fall down because you walked up to it and go, fall down, wall. No, life is tough. Being a great basketball player is tough. Being a great coach is tough. Being a parent, ladies and gentlemen, is tough, right?
Might be the toughest job out there.
You have to compete every day. Yeah. And, and not complain. Because, I mean, one, nobody really cares because they have their own problems. You just got to go out and compete every day to help you get through hard. So just wanted to throw that in, Coach.
No, that's perfect. And then the second thing he said, be a great teammate. And what he meant by that was be an elite communicator. He used the saying, words create your world. So how are you communicating with people? What are you saying? What are the words you're using? And because that's going to define kind of the world you live in, right? And so forth that way. So that was great, to be an elite communicator.
Life and death is in the power of the tongue.
Oh man, Red's coming out with it. He must have his book
on you guys.
Yeah, he has his notepad out from 1997. I can tell.
Hey, I got him. I got him.
And then he said, "Hey, be curious, but not judgmental. Like, be curious and ask questions, but don't be judgmental on the answers you may get, right? Because sometimes you're going to get an answer that maybe is something that you don't like, but we're not going to be judgmental. We're just going to digest that information, right? And then stand up for yourself, express yourself. Truth fears no question. You mentioned that already. So don't let people just walk over you. Make sure that they know, hey, I'm going to stand up for myself. I'm going to tell you how I feel. You might not like it all the time, but I'm going to tell you.
And his quote on that was, he said, you only offend those who are insecure. And
Oh,
people that know my wife, when she walks into a room, Shane, she has
uh-huh.
an aura and she has a presence and an
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
energy that you can feel. And
Yeah,
she can tell the people that are insecure around her
yeah, yeah.
by that energy. Like they won't
Yeah, they
look her
kind
in
of,
the eye, you know,
yeah. She can pick up on little cues.
she can pick up on it, and it
Head
is what
might
it
drop a
is.
little bit.
It's
No eye contact.
we've had some of our kids coaches that won't talk to her, or if they do, it's high and they're going right by
Yeah,
her,
real
right?
quick.
They
Gotta
don't
go.
want to have that conversation because she has you can't BS that woman. If you
She
know
can
my
pick up
wife,
on
you
it.
know my wife.
She
So,
can pick up on it,
but
huh?
yeah, you only offend those who are insecure. So I love that
Right.
part about standing up for yourself.
And then the fifth habit he mentioned, he said, play with joy and work with joy. Express enthusiasm. And talk about a life lesson right there, right? Go to work with joy. Be happy that you have a job, my man,
We get to.
and go to work and be the best worker at whatever you do. One thing I used to tell my kids when I coached Pop Warner, and I don't mean this in a derogatory way whatsoever, but I said, not everyone's going to be a CEO of a company. There just ain't enough companies out there. Like someone's going to do the job that maybe nobody wants to really do, right? The guy that collects my garbage, that mows my lawn, that cooks the fries at McDonald's for me. Like somebody's got to do those jobs.
Yep.
And if you're going to do them, do it happy and be the best at it.
Yep.
Be the best so you move up. Like you might start off as the fry guy and be the best fry guy in the world. All of a sudden the manager goes, dude, Red's pretty good at the fries. Let's move him here. 10 years down the line, guess what? Now Red's the general manager of a McDonald's. 10 years later, he's the regional manager of 7 McDonald's, and he's making 3.25. And you're like, dude, Red, you used to make my fries. And he goes, but dude, I did it with so much enthusiasm.
Yep.
I cared about those fries. And that's how you want to play sports. That's how you want to coach sports. That's how you want to live life. Attack every day with enthusiasm. That's a famous Harbaugh quote. Jim Harbaugh's dad, I believe, when I was watching a Harbaugh documentary, he talked about his dad, I believe, was the one that came up with attack every day with some enthusiasm, and like to a level that was just ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
And if you could do that every day, which I'll be honest, it's not easy, right? Like there's a lot of things going on in life. There's stuff attacking Red from left and right, attacking me, attacking you at home. If you're a parent, you got a lot of fish to fry. And sometimes you get up in the morning and you're like, oh my God, do I really? And it's tough. But if you can maximize those days, I heard on that video that I heard Ganon say something that, what did he say, Red, about something along the lines of like maximizing the minutes in the day?
Yeah. He maximizes his day. With what he does, and he said his dad had a great quote kind of along the lines of what you're talking about. Make it a great day or not. The choice is yours.
Yeah, the choice is yours, right?
You get up pissed off or you get up happy. It's a choice. People get on me. I'm an early bird guy. I get up, my alarm goes off, or my wife's alarm would go off at about 4:30. But I'm usually up by 5:30, 5:45 every day. And I'm ready to go. I step out of my room, I'm showered, teeth brushed, fully dressed. I'm ready to go. Get my coffee. Let's get into the day. I've gone into my places of work and different things, and I'm excited about the day. People are like, man, how do you have such energy?
Yeah, they're looking at you like, dude, what are you doing at 7 o'clock?
Why would I want to be all mopey and down all day? No,
100%.
Hey, nothing great was ever achieved without enthusiasm. So let's have a great day. Because they're finite. You only have so many, right?
Yeah. And you never know when they're going to be over.
You never know. So you know what? Hey, bring joy to people. Work with joy. Express that enthusiasm, like Ganon says. As far to the Hall of Fame habits, and
And if you do that as a coach, that's how you leave a legacy.
Yeah. Yep.
Those five Hall of Fame habits. Again, get through hard. Be an elite communicator. Be curious, not judgmental. Stand up for yourself and express yourself. and, play with joy, work with joy, be enthusiastic.
And, this series, the coaching more than or beyond the X's and O's, is going to be a frequent thing that we do, because I think
Yeah,
coaching in high school has such an impact on young people's lives. And there's so much that I think coaches need to learn. Heck, I'm still learning about coaching. Like
absolutely.
I told Ganon, I mean, there was something in there we talked about. Oh, he's about asking the players, hey, how do you guys want to play this year? How many coaches do that?
Yeah,
Right? I
yeah,
mean,
I got it written down here.
I never did that. Like, hey, how do you guys want to play? I mean, I remember going to summer camp the first year I got my first head coaching job at Cypress, and we were around the circle, and I said, what are your goals for camp? But that was about as much input,
Yeah.
as I gave them, because I didn't know any better. But now is, again, you learn, you gather information, you learn and you grow. So, I mean, I think you got to give kids buy-in. It can't be, like he said, a communistic approach where the coach is just dictating everything that we do. Give kids some buy-in, give them some, chance to express themselves. Hey, coach, this is what I think we do well. This is where, and you can take some of that and kind of direct it. And then when they see it happening, they're like, man, this guy really, trust our opinion. So, I think, we're going to do a lot of these different things. I want to talk about, a lot of different things in coaching and just personal development, how you create a culture with your program. I think I've been around programs where, one of my assistants when I was at Osceola, his son played on our team. When I was at Florida State, our assistant coach, Coleman Crawford, his son played on our team. Hopefully I can get Steve Robinson on. When he was at North Carolina as an assistant, his son was on the JV team and then moved up on the varsity team. And it's tough. I mean, it's tough to coach your own kid, and just kind of those dynamics, because I think there is a lot out there. I know we're coming up starting next week, the Florida High School State Basketball Finals. Windermere is in the 7A state finals, and Coach Grissick's son played for him, a number of years ago. Now he's one of his assistant coaches. So, just that dynamic, is a tough one. People on the outside, oh, he's only doing that because he's his kid. Or, man, he's so tough on his kid. Why is he so hard on that kid? So there's a dynamic, whether your kid feels entitled, oh, because my parent is the coach, I can just do whatever I want and say whatever I want. We've been around that type of program, and it's not fun, so we'll talk about that. We'll get into a number of different things under this whole mantra of coaching beyond the X's and O's, because there's more things out there than just X's and O's in coaching.
100%.
So, Coach,
hey, one last thing, Red, that I had written down.
I was going to say, final thoughts. Go ahead.
Yeah, the one thing he said at the end that was interesting. He said, learning how to win changes your life. And I don't think he meant to say winning changes your life. It's learning how to win. Because once you learn how to win, then you can win in a lot of aspects of your life.
Sure.
And you have to, that's a process to learn how to win, right?
Yep.
Like, you just don't wake up and win.
Exactly.
You gotta figure out how to do that. But once you figure that out, that'll change your whole life. And that was, when I heard that one, I was like, that's, and who do you say to that? Ray Allen?
Ray Allen told him that. He said, don't worry about, I forget what he said it about, not worrying about certain things. Teach him how to win, teach him how to win. And, I think the number one thing to teach him is getting through the hard, being married. It's tough, right? It's hard. Being a parent is hard. Getting up, going to work every day, knowing that, hey, I'm not going to make as much money as I need to get the rent or put the lights on.
Right.
I mean, there's single parents out there that are working 2 or 3 jobs. That's hard, right? They got to get through hard, and if they do that, and they win in life. And I think that's what it's all about. And I think sports teaches so many life lessons, like you and I talked about before we got on today, that it's just, teamwork, hard work, dedication, perseverance, stick-to-itiveness. All those things are taught on a playing field I mean, we don't have a chalkboard in practice every day. So, okay, we're going to work on perseverance today.
It's built in.
Automatic. It's in there, you know, and coach teaching, okay, we just got to keep pushing, man, we're right there. We only lost by 2 yesterday. Hey, let's keep pushing. You know what? 2 games later, hey, we won by 3. We're getting there, you know, and that's just, you know, what I love about sports. You know, Ganon, down to earth guy. You never know, you know, just talking to him. He doesn't have an ego. You know, he doesn't have, you know, that mindset like, oh, I'm the best, you know, because I've worked with Kobe and LeBron and all these guys. He's very humble. He's a religious man. He's got a beautiful family. His wife is a junior college head basketball coach here in the state of Florida. You know, just an amazing, you know, just down to earth, humble guy, you know. You know, I can relate to him. You know, he talked about growing up in Hampton, Virginia, you know, the only salt and pepper shaker. I love that part. But guys, again, if you like what you're hearing, please on our YouTube channel, subscribe, share, leave us a comment. You know, if you're on listening to us on Spotify or other podcast platforms, please like, subscribe, and share on those. You know, we're just trying to be the best high school sports podcast that we can. You know, we want to get as much information out there to as many people. Hopefully you're learning something. Hopefully you're getting something of value from it. If not, tell us what we can do better. Leave us a comment in the comment section. You know, hey, we're always trying to get information. You know, we want to get better at what we do. We want to provide you with information that's valuable, that you can learn something from. Hopefully your kids can learn something from it. Coaches can learn something from it. So, you know, we appreciate everybody. We thank you for taking time out to listen. We have another basketball coach coming up, and our next episode will be the one and only Frank Martin, former head coach at Kansas State, South Carolina. He is now the head men's basketball coach at University of Massachusetts. He is from the bottom here in Florida, from Miami. Was a player and coach at Miami Senior High School. I actually played junior college with one of his players. So, you know, if you've ever seen Frank or you know anything about Frank, that interview should be fun and interesting and wild.
It should be fun.
So I can't wait to have that interview with him and get that one up on our YouTube page as well. So, you know, until next time, ladies and gentlemen, hey, keep swinging for the fences, and we'll talk to you soon here on Coach Red and Company.
Appreciate you. Be good, everyone.
This has been Coach Red and Company, the premier podcast that takes an inside look at high school athletics like you've never heard before. Touchdown! Both Red and Shane are veteran coaches, and their passion is high school sports and going beyond just the X's and O's. We hope you've enjoyed the show. If you did, make sure to like, rate, and review. We'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube at Coach Red and Company. Email us at coachredandcompany@gmail.com.